Pretty touching scenes at the end, and that applause both to the travelling support and which was reciprocated as well from the Ipswich Town fans. I mean, in the end, by the nature of the result today, not helped by the red card, did that kind of epitomise Ipswich's season?
In a way, yeah. I think at home they were a bit awkward. I thought they some games where teams had to go there and they knew they were in for a game and they had to play at their very best to beat them. But no, I think, as we said earlier, they're the three teams that have gone down deserve to go down, letting that amount of goals go in. But no, it was going to be tough for them today. Newcastle were a very good side, as we saw today.
Yeah.
And, yeah, whether they can get back up, it's a very tough thing. One thing coming up to the Premier League, to stay there is a tough job. To go down and come back, it necessarily doesn't mean it's just going to happen.
No.
They're going to have to work very exceedingly hard.
But to put it into context, let's not forget back-to-back promotions from League One to the Premier League under Kieran and McKenna.
Yeah.
I mean, and to, reap, I suppose, the rewards that come with being in the Premier League. They've given themselves foundations to build upon from here on in, really.
Mm. Yeah, they have. But we say that about a lot of teams when they go down. So they need to bounce straight back up. They get one shot at it. The parachute money as well. They're going to need to use that. They're going to need to keep hold of their players. There's a lot of players like I use Liam Delap, for instance. I think he's of value to someone in the Premier League. I think he's shown enough. What did he score? 14 goals or something this season? For someone to score that amount of goals in the team with 21 points, shows that he's got some potential to play in the Premier League. So they'll find it very difficult if he's got a buyout clause, which I think he has in his contract. He will leave. They will get good money for him. But they need to make sure they don't weaken themselves entirely so they can't bounce back at the first attempt. I think it's really difficult. I'd love to know now. I'm not sure we get an honest answer, but I'd love to ask the money men there at Ipswich do they wish they never spent the £100+ million? Because with 21 points, they weren't even close. They didn't even make a run of it, really. I mean, let's be honest about it. And nor did the other two teams who come up with them. So to spend that amount of money, do they feel like it was wasted money? It is wasted money if they don't keep hold of those players.
Yeah.
Yes, the wages will drop because they come out. Relegation clauses always, certainly a team like Ipswich who come up, their wages will be halved or whatever it might be, 3/4. So they will save on some wages, but they need to keep all them players to bounce back into the Premier League, and hopefully they'll be more suited to stay in there. But they were miles away.
Yeah, but it was always going to be a steep learning process, not only for the group of players, but for Kieran McKenna, let's not forget, who's still very much a novice in the game.
Yes, I mean, he's done a fantastic job there with the promotions that he's got. But at the end of the day, I'll go back to what I'm saying. If you come up into this division and think you're just going to pick the reins up from where you are in the Championship and dominate and play like you want to play, you can't. Southampton thought they were going to do the same. And it just isn't there. You've got to become an awkward team. You've got to play with a different style in a way that you go, oh, hang on a minute, we've got to think about the way they play. They don't play like everyone else. They're going a bit longer. Yeah. So if you go longer, you make your opponents go into a back four straight away. They don't have a chance to come and press you like in the modern game where you put your full-backs up and everyone goes pressing. You don't get a chance if you're going to hit every goal kick or the keeper's going to play it long. Be awkward. Be awkward for a season and then consolidate, and then you've got a chance of staying in there. Now, that is not the way. That's not vogue, as I call it.
Not sexy enough.
It's not sexy. It's not the way to play. But if you want to survive, and it's about survival, they all think they're going to come in there and do a Brentford, but that was earned through year after year, surviving, playing a certain way. Now they've earned the right to go and play and go face-to-face against Arsenal or whoever, but that's not going to happen overnight when you come up.
So it's all about consolidation, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. For Newcastle, it's a very different story. 6 wins in the last 7. They move into the top 3 as they move a step closer to Champions League qualification next season. Let's hear from the goal scorer of their second goal, and unbelievably his first Premier League goal of this season, Dan Burn.
Dan, after a difficult day at Villa Park last week, how important, how good does that win feel?
Yeah, massive. I think it was always going to be a huge game with the amount of games we had left. I thought Ipswich started well and it was pretty tight until the sending off, and we got the penalty, but I thought we were sorted out really well. There's been a few times when we've played against teams with 10 men we're getting a little bit sloppy and allowed the pressure to build, but I thought we played really well, kept the ball on their half and scored some good goals.
Alex, of course, gave you the leads, and then the big Dan Burn show in the second half. First goal of a Premier League season. How nice it to get it. Does that avoid you a forfeit?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I always normally have a bet with my brother, so it's, I'm glad I've finally got one. I've had enough chances. I felt like I was going to score today. I thought there was a few I could have gotten now, so I was just glad to finally get over the line. And
of course, the first Premier League goal for Willis Sula. He's a character, isn't he? I mean, how delighted are you for Will?
No, yeah, buzzing for him. He's had to wait sort of a long time for his opportunity. He's young, still learning how we play. But yeah, great header. Not sure if he meant it, but yeah, really happy for him.
Often it's described as a bit of a family, this squad. How good was that win for the boss with his first game back, and how nice to have him back on the touchline?
Yeah, great to have him back. As I said, he said he was going to try and take it easy in training. I think he'd already stopped it within 30 seconds and was giving away a little bit. So yeah, no, it was good to have him back. He's the leader. He sort of holds with the high standards. As I said, it was really important that we got that win today. Everyone seems to be winning round us, so we need to sort of keep that momentum.
Yeah, just finally back to third. It's nerve-wracking. It's exciting for the fans. What the heck is this Champions League race like for you players?
No, it's great. It's exciting. I think this is when you want to play football. This is what you want to be doing. You want to be sort of in contention in the last sort of 4 or 5 games. I think it's been a really good Premier League season. I don't think it's been, obviously Liverpool have, I wouldn't say walked away with it, but they're pretty well clear. But I think there's a lot of teams competing this year, so it's been exciting.
Top man. Thanks for your time.
Nice one.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah, 3 goals, 3 different goal scorers into third, and with Eddie Howe back in the dugout. Not a bad day for the Magpies.
Yeah, there's pressure on them because Chelsea's result earlier, so they know they couldn't slip up.
Yeah.
I don't think they can slip up between now and the end. It's going to go right to the wire. It's very exciting, this race, and thank goodness for it.
Yeah. And there was a case or an element of the St James's Park roar behind this team, which almost kind of, kept on going throughout the game, especially on the back of that red card.
Yeah, I think the red card helped them. Obviously, when your opponents go down to 10 men in the first half, if it's like 20 minutes to go and they can hold on, that's different. But they just had this little spell where it looked like it might not be their day as well, because they had chance after chance, clearance off the line. It was like amazing, sort of 3 or 4 minutes. And then the penalty came and just sort of relaxed everyone. And then you just felt they were going to, against 10 men, you go 1-0 up under them circumstances. Very difficult for Ipswich to come back. You knew they were going to pen them in, and they did the job professionally in the end.
Let's have a look at that penalty incident to begin with then. Julio Enciso fouling Jacob Murphy. Was this a straightforward call for you, Tim?
No, I don't think it was straightforward. I thought it was soft. I think there was contact. Yes, Enciso grabs Murphy's arm, and he's entitled to go down. He just swivels on it, just pulls himself away. There's the grab there. Don't hold on for too long. I think if the referee didn't give that, I don't think VAR would have stepped in.
I think that's the angle. As soon as I saw it from that angle, I'm thinking, yeah, he's going to give a penalty because of he's just dragged his arm back. And
good penalty from Enciso.
Yeah, decent penalty. I think if the keeper goes early a little bit and goes the right way, I think he saves it. Not the best, probably, but they deserve to be 1-0 up. By hook or by crook, it's by a penalty, but because of the way they were playing, they created chance after chance after chance.
Yeah, we saw the red card after that, and that really fired up the home crowd, as I mentioned, that element of their support to the Newcastle players. Dan Burn getting up his first Premier League goal of the season. We know what he did in the final at Wembley in the League Cup. But as far as the top division goes, his first of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran just realised there's an overload, and this, once it comes over Palmer, the goalkeeper, there's absolutely no chance that's not ending up anywhere else but in the back of the net. O'Shea there knows he's got a problem. He sees big Dan Burn there next to the referee coming up. No one fancies marking him, especially if this ball is getting dinked to the far post. As soon as it comes there, see, now he's got a problem. He's looking, he's lost him. Now, Dan, there's only one outcome there. Once that comes over the top, look at him, 6 for 8. He's taking everyone and putting them in the net. And O'Shea, I don't know why he's complaining that there, because he's caught up in the net. I thought it was a fish for 1 minute.
But I tell you what, I mean, there's no stopping Dan Burn when he's in that position, is there?
No, it was a beautifully flighted ball as well from Trippier. But the corner, they went asleep on the corner. But that's the problem. You've got a corner and you've got 10 men. Realistically, they should have had one out there, but you don't want to put one out there. Look, they go, and then there's a corner on the next goal. This is a great header. This is really almost Shearer-like, I think, from the young kid. He's just had to go backwards a bit, beautifully guided, just jumps well, times it to perfection. Doesn't try and hit it too hard. Whistler, and look, right behind it, beautifully, yes, executed. Great header. Not sure about an Alan Shearer celebration, though. Don't think Alan would have done that.
Not sure. I'm not sure Alan's got the moves for that. But look, you're
got the
enjoying
hips
it.
for
And
that
why not?
nowadays.
I mean, the kid's waited for his opportunity. It's been hard for him to get opportunities. Wilson's been stepping in. But I think that Oshloo he looked like he's got confidence. After that, we saw him drag one to the side, hit one with his left foot. He's very unlucky, got deflected wide. He just needs a run. Needs a run to see what he can possibly do. And he looks like he's got Premier League quality.
That result sealed Ipswich Town's fate. So let's get some reaction from their dressing room on relegation being confirmed. Here's Luke Woolfenden.
We'll talk the game in a second, but of course, Ipswich confirmed, relegated. Just sum up your feelings right now.
I think obviously disappointed, but I think within the group and within the fan base, you know, there's a sense of pride of the journey that we've been on and where we've come from. You know, obviously we've not been at it this season. I'm not sure too much is based on the football ability. I think brain-wise we've probably let ourselves down too many times. But yeah, I think obviously disappointing and gutted that the dream's sort of kind of over. But I think there's a pride and a determination that the boys want to be back here again in 14 months and come stand toe-to-toe with Newcastle and you know, have a proper go at them.
We'll come on to that in a second. Just on the game today, how much do you think the result kind of hinged on that crazy 10-15 minutes towards the end of the first half? There was the red card, then the penalty decision.
Yeah, I think I'm not too sure it's a yellow for Jono, the first one. Obviously the second one definitely is, so once he's got a yellow, it's obviously, you know, the ref has to do that. But I think the first one's probably not a yellow. So the penalty is what it is. But, you know, I think we're in a stage where we're enjoying frustrating the crowd and actually seeing it out, and the defending of the box was actually quite good. It was just, again, that moment that I said earlier about just being a bit wiser and trusting your teammates, you know, and not making that foul in the box, just letting them go and hoping that your mate can get you out of trouble. But yeah, I think it massively hinged on that. You know, once we got the red card and then you have something to cling on to at 0-0, but once you give the penalty away, then, you know, you're really up against it.
Yeah, honest views of Luke Woolfenden on Ipswich Town's relegation from the Premier League today. For Newcastle, they maintain that pursuit, right, of the top 5. I mean, that's a big boost for them. And the nature of the win will help.
Yeah, I mean, in front of their home fans, you know, everyone thought it's going to be after the Lord Mayor's show, you know, where they win the Carabao Cup and then they take a dip. I think they were very fortunate that an international break come at the end of that, so they could enjoy it. And then they come back refreshed and looking to play in the Champions League. They know they want to get back to there. And a lot of these players, if they want to keep the likes of Isak and Gamarish, Joe Linton, there's so many of them who are good enough to play in Champions League sides. So they want to stay at Newcastle and they want to play in that tournament. So it's really important that they get there. If they don't, it's really difficult to attract players and keep your best ones.
Yeah, and the prospect of a special season is still there.
Well, it's special anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's special. If you want a trophy at Newcastle, my word. But to add that with a Champions League position as well, you know, there'll be statues and all sorts of Eddie Howe up there in Jordan.
Yeah.
And Jason will be quite close to him.
As he always will, which is part of the job description, no doubt.
We'll go down to the wire, I think. I think that the important thing today is we bounced back from last week, which was a disappointing defeat. But we've been very consistent, and it's a real good return to a positive result. And now we have 4 huge games.
No, it's great. It's exciting. I think this is when you want to play football. This is what you want to be doing. You want to be sort of in contention in the last sort of 4 or 5 games. I think it's been a really good Premier League season. I don't think it's been, obviously Liverpool have, I wouldn't say walked away with it, but they're pretty well clear. But I think there's a lot of teams competing this year, so it's been exciting.
Yeah, honestly, today doesn't change too much in terms of, we know that it's, you know, that after the Wolves game, really, that was probably the last chance that we had. It doesn't mean that we've not competed with everything. I think you can see that in the Chelsea game, in how we've competed again today. So, you know, it doesn't change too much. We go to Everton next week. We're going to try and get more of the group back fit and healthy and get some training done next week and go and try and deliver a really good performance at Everton, finish off well in the next 4 games. Of course, we're already planning certain things for next year, and as I've said, I think the jump and the climb's been really quick. It's going to be a step back this season, but it's, you know, it's really hard to progress without taking a step back at some stage, and we have to plan well now and use that well and make sure that the club's stronger for the experiences that it's been through this year.
I think obviously disappointed, but I think within the group and within the fan base. You know, there's a sense of pride of the journey that we've been on and where we've come from. You know, obviously we've not been at it this season. I'm not sure too much is based on the football ability. I think brain-wise we've probably let ourselves down too many times. But yeah, I think obviously disappointing and gutted that the dream's sort of kind of over. But I think there's a pride and a determination that the boys want to be back here again in 14 months and come stand toe-to-toe with Newcastle and you know, have a proper go at them.
Yeah, it was always going to be tough for Ipswich Town under Kieran McKenna. And he's touched upon it there, Luke Woolfenden, 5 red cards, including one earlier. I mean, that just contributes to making it even harder.
Oh, absolutely. He can't beat anyone with 11 men, you know, so what chance you got with 10? So discipline they have to have a look at. I think it's probably the red cards because they're flat out in games, you know, struggling, you know, lose their minds a little bit. Woolfenden talked about it there. It's more of a brain than an ability in the squad. I'd say it was a bit of both. I mean, you've got the ability or the brains at the moment, but you learn from it, and that's what they need to do.
Did it pan out as tough for Ipswich as you expected it to be this season?
Yes, I thought the 3 teams coming up were always going to find it very difficult to stay in, particularly the way they all attempted to play, the style of football that they've attempted. They've given too many goals away, all 3 of them. I think it's 41 that Ipswich have let in. But no, I think at home they've had a little bit of a go. I think there's, you know, we're going to Ipswich this year, early in stages in the season particularly, they had a go at people and you thought we've got to be on our mettle today, we've got to be right. If not, we could get turned over. But that's really the positive side for them. You know, they had spent a little bit of money, but, you know, the thing about giving, 5 yellow cards, those teams down the bottom, you haven't got possession as much as the other team. So you're going to be defending more than you're going to be attacking. So you're going to get bookings and suspensions and red cards because that's just the nature of it as it is. So that hasn't helped them at all. But I think they'll learn from it, and whether they can bounce back again next season, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you get the money, but it's, you know, you've got to use the money well. You've got to keep your best players. I think, as we spoke about earlier off set here, Delap is a good player. He's a Premier League player. They might end up losing him. They've got to keep their best players and then add to the players that suits the Championship. That's the difficult thing. Suit the Championship, but when we go back up, if we go back up, can they make us, you know, are they good enough to play in the Premier League? That's always the problem.
Let's have a look at Ben Johnson's 2 yellows that obviously led to the red. How avoidable were they?
I think this one's unlucky, I really do. I think from this angle it looks like he takes a dive, but I think Dan Burn does make contact with him and he trips him up. So I don't think it's a penalty. Oh, it's obviously a free kick outside the box, but the referee decides that that's a yellow card. And it was very, very quick afterwards. He gets done by
6.5 minutes later.
Yeah, but it's in his mind. I think he's hot. He's embarrassed by Isak there, and he just grabs him. And there's no question that's a second yellow card, and he has to take an early bath. But it's really unfortunate for Kieran McKenna and the Ipswich because, you know, it's hard enough place to go, you know, with maximum numbers on the pitch. As soon as you lose him, you know, you're uphill task.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the first of the 3 goals for Newcastle. It came via the penalty spot. Ipswich, again, I suppose just being undone in defence here, being turned, right, Julio and Ciso by Jacob Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy just gets on the blind side, gets goal side, and I think Ciso just panics a bit, does put his arm out, does make contact with him. This is the angle. When the referee went across and looked at it, I think it's tough to say that's not a penalty and he's interfered with Murphy's run into the box.
Do you think it was an error, though, Glenn, to be overturned by VAR? I mean, he hits the floor very early.
Yeah, I think it's a soft penalty, but I think it was a penalty with the evidence that you're seeing from the sideways, and Zach just puts the ball in the back of it. Not a great penalty, I've got to say. If the keeper goes the right way, he saves that.
Yeah. Now, if there is a cross going in the opposition box and you've got Dan Burn hurtling towards the ball, you wouldn't want to be anywhere near him, would you?
Oh, we know what's going to happen, but I think Kieran there, Trippier, he's very clever. Yeah. He realises an overload. He can get to a real crossing position where they can't see Dan. You know, it's really easy if you can see the ball and the defender, but as soon as he goes to the byline, it's really impossible. You see O'Shea there at the back post. He knows he's got a problem because the big Dan Burn's coming in there by the referee with his arm up, and all he's praying for a ball over the top of the goalkeeper. This gets dinked over the top, and his eyes light up now. And you know that there's only one outcome, and he's taking everything into the back of the net with him, including the ball, which is the most important thing. Brilliant.
I mean, Trippier's ball is absolutely excellent, but the overlap is the key to it, because when you play against 10 men, you've got to do overlaps because you make a spare man. They can't cover every angle. And, you know, he's overlapped. He's bought himself so much time, but the delivery of the cross was excellent.
That was Burns' first Premier League goal of this season for William Osula, the youngster who's playing third fiddle really in the striker's position. He got his first goal for the club, and boy, did he enjoy it.
It's a good header. Osula gets himself in position, and it's a standing jump. So he gets there early, and then he has to standing jump, and he guides it into the corner, gives the Palmer absolutely no chance. It's wonderful for the boy. He took control of the ball and nearly scored another one in after that. Just the confidence what that gives him. You know, it's great for him to score, but that dance, I think he's got to put an end to that. Look at that, especially that one.
He's just jealous.
I think he was
jealous too.
It's Newcastle, they're all dancing up there now.
He was coaxed into that one by the Brazilian, wasn't he?
All right, so we've had Chelsea and Newcastle in this match week who've played in those battling for the top 5. We saw Man City and Villa play earlier in the week, so Forest are the only ones to play in this match week. Where are we now? So Newcastle are seemingly in pole position, 62 points. Behind them are Manchester City. Chelsea with that massive win earlier. And they've still got some tough fixtures to play, haven't they?
They certainly have, but if Arsenal are in the Champions League final, you know, they've got Brighton and Everton, who, let's say, are floating. Nothing to play for in many ways apart from their pride. So those fixtures line up pretty good for me from Newcastle's point of view. Yeah.
They've got 81% chance of making it through to the top 5, according to Opta's statistics. For you, Tim?
I think Newcastle, Man City. I just think that the fixtures for Chelsea are very difficult, and there might be some movement there. Maybe the likes of Aston Villa or Nottingham Forest could step into that. But these two teams are in an FA Cup semi-final, so it all depends if they progress to the final, and they might have their eye on a bigger prize.
Yeah.
But is there a bigger prize in Champions League football with the money what it brings to the clubs, and to be able to sign the best players all over Europe and all over the world?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's a difficult one to weigh up. I know what the fans want.
Yeah.
They want a trophy.
Of course, yeah.